Here's Thurber Prize-winning author, the recipient of the Writers Guild of America East's 2010 Ian McClellan Hunter Lifetime Achievement Award, and overall great guy, Alan Zweibel.
About two months ago, when I got a message that the Writers Guild was looking for me, my first thought was, great, I owe them money again. Then when I called back and was told that this was about Al Franken, my next thought was, great, Franken wants money again. I'm going, God, I ignored 2 of those emails, and now he's sending the Guild after me to collect. But when they said Al was getting the Evelyn F. Burkey Award and asked if I would present it to him, I was touched and truly honored, and I said, you bet, but on one condition, that the presentation be smack in the middle of President's Day weekend, so my wife and I won't be able to go anywhere. And they said, no problem. You know, when I started thinking about tonight, my mind immediately went back to July 7th, 1975. That's the day that all the writers and actors piled into Lorne Michaels' office on the 17th floor of what was then called the RCA building for our first meeting to discuss this new show we'd be launching in the fall called Saturday Night Live. As I looked around, I saw Belushi and Gilder and Dan Aykroyd and Chevy, and immediately thought they were the funniest people I'd ever seen, and I was in awe. And then I saw Al Franken, and I don't know what it was about him, but there was something about the way he looked and the way he was dressed back then that convinced me that one day he was going to win an award named after Evelyn F. Burkey, who was a somewhat disheveled woman with curly hair and glasses. Al, his partner Tom Davis, and I were apprentices, and from the minute we started working, Al and Tom's writing set them apart from everyone else on the staff. Whether it was a movie parody titled The Pepsi Syndrome, or sketches about Richard Nixon's final days, or the points that Jane Curtin made on Weekend Update before Dan called her an ignorant slut, or the counterpoints that Dan made after he called her an ignorant slut, the writing was always sharp and thought-provoking. And sometimes the material is just plain funny, because while I'd be hard-pressed to tell you exactly what the social significance was of having Dan Aykroyd portray Julia Child bleeding out after she cut herself on a cooking show, I can tell you that their writing set a high standard for wonderful writers like Jim Downey, Robert Smigel, Bonnie and Terry Turner, Seth Meyers, Adam McKay, Tina Fey, and so many others when they eventually joined the SNL staff. But as significant as those SNL contributions were, Al was just getting started. With his best-selling books, his TV series Late Line, and his radio show on Air America, it's been Al's writing, whether read, spoken by actors, or delivered by Al himself, that has been at the core of his conveyances. With attention to detail, a commitment to accuracy, and a passionate moral code he's never deviated from, Al's words have not only made me laugh since 1975, but he also brought a group of us to tears when, as a candidate, he told us how much it hurt him that our country didn't have the stature it once had in the eyes of the rest of the world. It would be an understatement to say that Al embodies the influencing power of words. And these days, bolstered by the support of Team Franken, whose members consist of his wife Franny, his children Thomason and Joe, and their families, Al continues to fight for the creative community by supporting net neutrality, freelancer rights, and by taking on media consolidation. Over the course of the 40-plus years since we started SNL, so many of our colleagues have gone on to great heights and have garnered a lot of accolades and recognition to their contributions to the country's culture. But I can honestly say that at the top of my list, the one I couldn't possibly be prouder of is Al. And tonight, And tonight, just as he's already listed among some pretty terrific senators with names like Kennedy, Humphrey, Gore, Webster, and Clay, he takes his rightful place amongst previous Burkey recipients with names like Albee, Lear, Arthur Miller, Walter Bernstein, Joan Didion, Martin Scorsese, and Walter Cronkite. Ladies and gentlemen, a great writer and my great friend, Senator Al Franken.
Sit down. Save it for the end. Thank you. This is a wonderful honor. The Evelyn F. Burkey Award, I think as you saw, is, as I understand, is given to a writer who has brought honor and dignity to our profession. And I can only think that means it doesn't mean you always brought honor and dignity, but that you did it, you brought honor and dignity to our profession on balance. And so this means a lot. Probably the question I get asked most these days is it as much fun being a U.S. Senator as working on Saturday Night Live? And the answer, of course, is no. Why would it be? But I have to tell you that being a senator is a great privilege, and because you get to do things that improve people's lives, like providing health insurance for 18 additional million Americans. Making sure that people with pre-existing conditions can get health insurance. Saying that there's no cap. There's no annual cap, no lifetime cap, so people don't go bankrupt if they get sick. From that to fighting for net neutrality, which is important not just for our profession, but for virtually every business in the world, and to every person in the world, and to the First Amendment, to freedom of expression and freedom of the press. I have been a proud warrior against media concentration. I was the only U.S. Senator to oppose the Comcast-Time Warner deal for 14 months. The week it collapsed, I finally convinced 5 of my Democratic colleagues to write a letter to join me on yet another one of my letters to the Department of Justice and the FCC, and it fell apart that week. And this merger that was considered a fait accompli fell apart for every good reason. There is a wide range of issues that I work on, from mental health to criminal justice to climate change. The Senate is a great job for anyone who is curious. And what makes a good senator is what makes a good writer, and that's being curious. I was on The Daily Show about a month before Jon Stewart left, and he asked me if there was any part of being a U.S. Senator that was helped by having been a writer. And I said to him, yes, the writing. And I get to write quite a bit, actually, but I miss the camaraderie of a show, and I miss the camaraderie of really funny colleagues like Alan, like Mike McKean. There's nothing more fun than writing comedy with hilarious people, and that does not happen in the U.S. Senate. So I miss you more than you can possibly know. And I want you to know how grateful I am, not just for this recognition, but for all the years that I was privileged to work as a writer in the entertainment business. And who knows, someday I may be back. Thank you.